Hey guys, tonight we're setting sail into a stormy corner of the past, a place filled with sea salt, stolen names, monkey sidekicks, and powder kegs of secrets. You're perched barefoot on the edge of a rotting dock, somewhere off the West Indies, a murky lantern swaying above your head. The smell? Rum, old rope, and just a hint of shark blood in the air. And in your pocket, a letter from someone who thinks you're a boy. That's how most of these women began, not as icons, but as whispers, shadows, and stowaways. You probably won't survive this, just so we're clear. The food's bad, the men worse, and if you can't pull your weight, the ocean's always hungry. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I'm always curious. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not born a pirate. Not really. You're born into a world that doesn't plan for you to survive long enough to choose anything. You're a girl with too much dirt under your nails and not enough bread in your belly. Your mother might have died in childbirth, or ran, or you never knew her. Your father, if you had one, either drank himself into the sea or sold you to someone who needed help around the house. Which, let's be honest, didn't mean laundry. Historians still argue whether some of the earliest female pirates, like Anne Bonny or Mary Read, were truly orphans, or just neglected so long it didn't matter. What's clearer is that stability was not part of their world. Stability was for boys who could inherit things and girls who married them. You had a better chance of being struck by lightning twice while scrubbing the deck of a prison barge. So you become a watcher, a copier. You watch how the big boys move, how they spit, how they gamble, how they cheat. You learn quick that feelings are luxuries, and crying gets you slapped, robbed, or worse. You've got to choose your weapon early, and it won't be a sword. Not yet. Your weapon will be silence, patience, eyes wide open and mouth stitched shut with invisible thread. You start working early. Maybe you sell fish, maybe you sweep a tavern that doubles as a brothel by night. Or maybe you just clean up after soldiers who forget your name, but not your face. If you're lucky, someone older, maybe an aunt with no blood relation, shows you how to steal bread and not get caught. Your first win tastes like sea salt and mold. Your second win? That's a pair of boots from a sleeping sailor. Quirky fact time. One early 1700s Caribbean thieves' guild run by women would use trained raccoons to distract men during pickpocketing routines. Yes, raccoons. Tiny, masked criminals helping bigger, bolder ones. That's the vibe. By 10, you've outlived more than half your peers. By 12, you're taller than most of the kids still alive, and you've stopped correcting people when they assume you're a boy. It's easier. It's safer. And deep down, it feels like a story you can maybe control. Unlike the one fate dealt you. You hear stories. Oh yes, not the bedtime kind. There are no lullabies here. You hear what happens to girls who don't listen. But you also hear whispers about ships that don't ask questions. About women who cut off their hair, tie down their chests, and sail away to someplace that doesn't care what's under their shirt. Only what's in their fists. You dream of that place. You dream of salt wind and gold coins, and not being scared when the tavern door bangs open. You start to save things. Tiny things. A broken blade, a button, a folded map with smeared ink. They say if you save 3 cursed items, your 4th will be blessed. You don't know who they is, but you believe it anyway. One day, a ship docks. Not a big one, no. It's small, ugly, and missing a sail. But the crew? They're not uniformed. They don't bow to anyone. One woman, yes, a woman leans against the rail and lights a pipe. She's got scars, and a laugh like gravel. You stare at her too long. She sees, winks. You drop your mop and run. That night, you steal your way onto the ship. Hide in barrels. You've got nothing but your boots and the name Jack. Jack's no one. Jack's not even real. But Jack might get you somewhere. And you? You're tired of being her. You stay in that barrel for 3 days. You count them not by sunrises, you can't see the sky, but by the rhythm of boots on deck and the way the rocking intensifies each night. You chew on hard biscuit scraps you'd swiped from the tavern the day before. The water runs out by morning of the second day, and by day 3, you're licking condensation off the barrel lid like a thirsty rat. Then the lid pops off. A face stares down at you, not angry, not surprised, just chewing something green and squishy between cracked teeth. Well, Jack, the sailor says, voice thick and coastal, either you're the ship's luck charm or our newest powder monkey. And just like that, you're in. Powder monkey is a polite term for child who might explode. Your job? Carry gunpowder from storage to cannons during battle fast, quiet, and without dropping anything that could detonate your spine. They don't expect you to survive, but they also don't expect you to be a girl. That part stays hidden, thanks to your flattened chest wrap, shaved head, and a posture that screams, "Don't look at me." Historians still argue whether some women went their entire sea careers without being found out. Mary Red passed as a man for years, both in the military and aboard pirate ships. Some accounts say she was only outed after falling ill. Others claim it was a lover who spilled the truth. Either way, it proves the disguise worked sometimes too well. You get good at pretending. You watch how the men move, the subtle shoulder swagger, the way they lean when they lie. You borrow it all, even their stink. You stop bathing when they do, which is almost never. It helps. But the pretending doesn't stop at posture. You've got to build a whole new self. Jack has a story. His mother was a laundress. His father, a sailor lost at sea. Jack never cries. Jack knows knots. Jack likes pickled eggs and doesn't flinch when someone swears. You're so deep in the lie, even you forget your real name some nights. And then come the jobs. Not glamorous ones. You don't swing swords yet. You clean. You coil ropes. You scrub everything from dry blood to suspicious stains you do not ask about. Your nails crack. Your back aches. Your nose bleeds sometimes for no reason. But your hands get strong. And your feet? They learn to grip the wood like roots. Fun historical side note. Some female pirates supposedly learned to fake limp to make themselves less noticeable when sneaking ashore. A few would even wrap one foot in cloth to create an illusion of amputation. You consider this, briefly, before deciding you need both feet for climbing ropes. At night, you lie on deck, watching stars skitter like fireflies across the black velvet of sky. You listen to the old ones talk. They tell tales of ports where coins melt into sand and ships sail into fog and never come out. You pretend to sleep, but your ears devour every word. One sailor talks about a woman with eyes like broken glass who slit a man's throat using the wire from a corset. You smirk. Amateurs. You've got better tools in your sewing kit. We'll get to that later. Eventually, someone trusts you enough to assign lookout duty. You climb the mast, heart hammering, palms sweating, wind trying to peel you off the rigging like old paint. But then you're up. The ocean stretches forever, and for once, no one's yelling at you to move or scrub. Shut up. You breathe, and it tastes like freedom. It doesn't last, of course. Someone always pushes too far. One night, in port, a dockhand tries to grab your backside. Jack elbows him hard, too hard. He doubles over. You don't wait for his friends to react, you bolt. Back on the ship, the captain corners you. His eyes are sharp, but not unkind. He's seen things. You think for a split second he knows, really knows. But all he says is, whatever you're hiding, make sure it doesn't sink us. That night, you stitch your name into the lining of your jacket. Not Jack, not your birth name. Just a word only, you know. A reminder. You're not pretending to be someone else. You're becoming someone no one has ever dared be. The first time you set foot in a real port as part of a ship's crew, you're overwhelmed by smells alone spiced wine, sweat, salt, fish, and that indescribable reek of human desperation. It clings to every alley and every coin changing hands. You're 17, or maybe just close enough to fake it. You've been Jack for so long, you barely remember how to walk like anything else. Port towns are alive in a way nothing else is. Everything pulses. The lanterns swing on iron hooks above doorways, with carved mermaids and painted cannons. The tavern signs creak in the breeze, chains groaning like moaning ghosts. And the people their part market, part theater, part battlefield. You learn quick that one wrong look gets you followed. One wrong word gets you remembered. You walk fast, head low, feet steady. But your eyes, they learn, and that's what saves you. You start to pick up skills that no sailor ever taught you. How to blend into the crowd, how to spot a drunk mark from across the square, how to vanish when needed. Some nights you swipe bread or jerky. Other nights you swipe gossip. Did you hear the Spanish galleon is heading out with only 6 guards? That's worth more than gold to the right ears. One day, while trailing behind a group of off-duty deckhands, you duck into a shop to avoid someone who looks far too closely at your face. The shop sells maps, some real, most fake, and compasses that spin wildly just for show. The owner is an old woman with cloudy eyes and a single silver tooth. She offers you a coin for sweeping her floors, and you accept. She doesn't ask your name. She calls you Crow because you're always watching. You keep coming back. For the floors, yes, but also for her stories. She tells you of pirate queens who hid knives in their hair, of sailors who could summon wind by humming in the right key. You nod, pretend disbelief, but you want it to be true. So you believe a little. Here's a fringe tidbit for you. Some female pirates were said to carry a pouch of dried pig's ears, soaked in vinegar, believed to ward off disease and, oddly, male attention. You spot one nailed to a tavern door. You don't ask. One night, Crow hands you a small folded square of linen. Inside is a perfect circle drawn in red ink. It's a map, she says, to nowhere in particular. But sometimes nowhere is the best place to start. You keep it. It goes in the lining of your coat, just next to the stitched name you never say out loud. Soon, you find yourself knowing the layout of every port better than most sailors. You know which alleys lead to dead ends, and which taverns change names every season to avoid the law. You've memorized the secret door behind the bluesmiths that leads to a den of card sharks and mercenaries. You never gamble, but you do listen. Historians still debate whether pirate crews had formal spies in town. Some believe they relied only on loose gossip and bribes. Others claim there were entire networks, often led by women, who fed information back to ships using coded laundry on lines, songs sung at taverns, or tattoos on errand boys. You can't confirm it, but the tattoos do seem to follow patterns. And then there's the tavern fights. Not the big, smashing chair kind, those are for drunkards and dramatics. The real fights are small, precise. A look, a hand too close to a purse, a knife sliding from a boot before the screen. You avoid them when you can, but once you stop one. A girl, younger than you were when you boarded that first ship, stumbles near your table. Her lips split. The man behind her, bigger, meaner, grabs her by the collar. You don't think, you just move. A bottle crashes. A fist flies. The room explodes in chaos, but the girl vanishes into the night, and you're left with a black eye and a broken rib. Worth it? Probably. Back on the ship, someone notices your bruises. You lie, of course. Fell off the gangplank. The captain just grunts. He's used to lies by now. Still, something shifts. The crew starts watching you differently. Less like a kid, more like someone who's done things. You're not sure how you feel about that. Admiration has weight, and weight sinks ships. One sailor, a wiry man with a scar like a spiderweb over his left cheek, asks you, quietly, where you learned to fight like that. You shrug. Taverns, you say. He nods like he understands. Later that week, he teaches you to throw a knife. Just once. Just in case. The knife sticks right into the mast. You feel it hum under your fingers, and you think maybe, just maybe, this life could actually be yours someday. You don't remember the first time you stole something because it mattered. You remember it because it didn't. It was just a biscuit. A dry, mostly stale, barely worth the risk little puck of flour and lard. You'd gone 2 days without food, and someone had left it on a crate while they pissed overboard. So you took it, just like that, and no one noticed. Or maybe they did, and decided it wasn't worth starting a fight over a snack. But to you, it was more than a biscuit. It was a test. Could you take something and get away with it? Could you be invisible and dangerous? The answer, it turned out, was yes. From there, the thefts escalated, not in drama, but in subtlety. You didn't steal big. You stole clever. A single coin from a counting bag. A scrap of parchment someone used as a grocery list. A spoon. Once, someone's belt buckle while they were still wearing it. They didn't notice until the next day. It became a joke. Old Jack must be part ghost. You weren't the only one. Every ship had its scavengers, its magpies. But what made you different was your motive. You weren't stealing for fun or pride, or to buy more rum. You were building something. A toolkit. A survival kit. A strange, mismatched collection of bits and bobs that only made sense to you. A rusty sewing needle with a hooked tip. 3 buttons, all different sizes. A piece of mirror. An empty snuff box. A string of prayer beads, minus the cross. You wrapped them all in oilcloth and kept them in your hammock under your head like a sea-soaked dream catcher. Mainstream fact incoming. The British Royal Navy once logged a case of a woman who disguised herself aboard a warship for over a year. When discovered, her belongings included a modified needle used both for mending and as a makeshift lockpick. You wonder if she, too, started with a biscuit. One day, you steal a book. Not a real one, just a cheap pamphlet, bound with string and full of half-legible script about diseases and their cures. Most of it is nonsense. But you keep it anyway. Something about having words of your own, even bad ones, feels important. You begin writing things down, not full sentences, not confessions, just single words sometimes. Words you hear that feel sharp, tied, split. Luck? You write them inside your coat, along the seams, so no one else can see. The ink bleeds when it rains. You don't care. You're making a map. even if you don't know where it leads. Quirky fact? Some female pirates kept silent diaries, collections of found words, symbols, even pressed flowers, sewn or etched into clothing. Modern historians call them textile journals. At least one was found sewn into a corset lining, hidden for over 200 years. You're not sentimental, but you are strategic. You start planting items, leaving small things behind in ports. You visit buttons, hairpins, tokens. If you ever come back, you'll know where you've been. Or if someone ever tries to find you, they'll see the trail. You don't know who someone might be, but it helps to imagine they'd care. Back on the ship, someone calls you a rat with manners. You grin. Rats survive. Manners are optional. That night, a storm hits. Not your first, not your worst, but it tears the sails and splits a barrel of oranges. You help bail water until your arms go numb. When it's over, the captain's boots are missing. Gone. Vanished into the dark. You find one 3 days later. Stuck in the rigging. Inside it, your biscuit, the original. Moldy, fossilized, ridiculous. You laugh so hard, your ribs ache. No one else gets the joke. That makes it funnier. Historians still argue whether pirates were true anarchists, or if they followed more rigid codes than their naval counterparts. Truth is, both are likely. Most ships had rules, shares of loot, rules for duels, punishments for theft. But the type of theft mattered. A coin gone missing? Annoying. A stolen knife? Dangerous. But a biscuit? That's legend. Eventually, someone gives you a real knife. Not stolen, not borrowed. Given. It's small, sharp, and wrapped in cloth. For luck, the sailor says. You nod, not trusting yourself to speak. You don't keep it in your boot like they suggest. You hide it in the hollow space behind your sewing kit. Because if it's seen, it raises questions. And right now, you still need to be Jack. Jack doesn't carry knives. Jack earns them. The more you steal, the more you understand how power works. It's not about having the most gold. It's about having the right item at the right moment. A map, a rumor, a biscuit. You start trading favors, small ones at first. I'll clean your mess if you teach me to tie that knot. I'll cover your shift if you tell me how to sharpen a blade without a stone. One day, someone brings you a hat. Not a grand pirate hat, just a plain, sweat-stained thing with a brim. Every sailor needs a shadow, he says. You tip it forward, low over your eyes. In the reflection of the water barrel, you see it. You look like someone you don't recognize, but someone you trust. They say clothes make the man. But what about the woman pretending to be a man? What do those clothes make her? A lie? A legend? Or just another poor soul trying not to get stabbed in the ribs for breathing the wrong way? By now, you've learned that the line between truth and survival isn't thin. It's frayed rope soaked in tar and blood. And when it comes to clothes, that rope wraps tight around your chest every single day. Corsets are out. Obviously, you burned yours, or maybe you never had one. Instead, you bind yourself with old sailcloth strips and worn bandages that used to wrap sprained ankles. You tie them too tight some days, and your breath catches like a bad dream. But it flattens the truth. That's the point. You wear loose shirts, torn where they need to be, patched where they don't. Breeches that hang a little too low, held up with rope instead of a belt, because you never really grew into a man's waist. Boots a size too big, stuffed with sea rags, so you don't clomp like a ghost dragging chains. And you stink, not perfume stink, real stink, ship stink. Sweat and fish guts and old grog dribble down your shirt front. That's protection. You could walk through a tavern fire, and no one would smell the secrets under your collar. Mainstream fact. Many female pirates adopted intentionally ragged appearances not just to blend in with male crews, but to signal toughness. Anne Bonny was known for wearing loose, blood-stained shirts and wielding pistols in both hands. No frills, no apologies. Not one bow in sight. You develop a style practical but deliberate. A dagger tucked in your boot, but never drawn. A handkerchief dyed with squid ink wrapped around your wrist, mostly for wiping sweat, but also as a tiny reminder. You once knew how to sew roses into fabric. You once knew gentleness. Quirky tidbit. One female pirate in the 1600s was said to have worn men's clothing, but still lined her coat with lavender to keep from smelling like death warmed over. Lavender? You can't afford that, but you once rubbed mint leaves on your wrists before going ashore. It felt like a spell. Fashion aboard the ship is chaos. Shirts become flags. Pants become bandages. You've seen someone turn a stolen priest's robe into a sail patch. Someone else made a belt out of sharkskin still had a tooth embedded. You stay simple. No lace, no ribbons. Those things are liabilities. But fashion ashore? That's a game you do play. Because in port towns, appearance is armor and sometimes bait. You discover the art of borrowing a look. You watch the rich ladies who flutter fans in brothels and pretend not to notice sailors' stares. You study the waitresses who pour grog with one hand and hold knives in the other. You mimic the swagger of men who wear velvet coats and speak in riddles. Once, in a port where no one knew your crew, you dress up, not fully just enough. A borrowed cloak, a hat with a feather you pluck from a drunk's lapel. You walk into a tavern not as Jack, but as someone, a merchant's brat, a runaway noble. You don't speak. You just nod, sip something expensive, and disappear before midnight. Historians still argue whether some pirates lived. Double lives in towns appearing as genteel women while running ships offshore. Some say it's myth. Others point to court records where wives vanished and pirate captains emerged a week later wearing the same boots. You keep a bundle of clothes hidden under your hammock. Your other self. Not dresses, just different. Softer shirts. A pair of shoes that don't reek of brine. A scarf with faint embroidery, possibly flowers, possibly sea monsters. Depends on the light. One evening, while docked near Tortuga, a crewmate catches a glimpse of your bundle. Planning a second life? He jokes. You smile. Planning a better death? He doesn't ask again. You think a lot about the women who didn't get to choose. The ones forced into corsets and prayers and parlor rooms. The ones who stared out windows and dreamed of storm clouds. You think maybe they would have loved the stink, the scars, the freedom to look wrong and feel right. And you hate lace, not because it's feminine, not because it's frilly, but because it unravels too easily. One tug and it's gone. That's not the kind of life you're trying to hold together. One night, while watching a storm roll in from the bow, you tie a knot in your shirt hem, not to fix a tear just for you. A secret signal, a thread you control. You're not trying to disappear anymore. You're trying to become. You've got blood under your fingernails and blisters on your palms. Your arms ache from hauling ropes, your knees from scrubbing the deck, and your pride, well, that's long gone. But you're still here, still standing. And for a while, that's all that matters. Your first real job on board wasn't glamorous. You weren't manning the helm or leaping into sword fights. You were gutting fish, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. The kind of job no one wants because it smells like death dipped in salt water. But you did it fast, neatly, with a precision that scared some of the older crew. That's when they started giving you other jobs, stranger jobs. One week, you were lugging powder kegs from the hold to the upper deck, your spine bent like a question mark. The next, you were smuggling goats. Yes, goats. The quartermaster had a side hustle selling milk and cheese in a nearby port, and your small frame made you perfect for sneaking livestock into places no goat should ever go. Then came the weirdest one, shadowing the cook. Sounds simple, right? Except the cook didn't want help. He threw knives at anyone who came near his stew pot. You earned your place by surviving. You learned to dodge blades and stir porridge at the same time. Useful skills. Historians note that some of the most successful female pirates spent years in ship roles often overlooked cooks, medics, runners, message carriers. They used the anonymity of these jobs to listen, learn, and lay the groundwork for eventual mutiny or escape. Mary Read served in a cavalry unit before switching to piracy. Passing as a man through both roles, you begin to notice patterns. Which crewmates are lazy? Which ones are clever? Who hides their coin in their boot? And who stashes it behind the water barrels? You don't steal much, but you could. And that's power. Your work changes again. You become a runner, someone who takes orders from the helm to the gunners below during skirmishes. It's a terrible job. Loud, dangerous, and frantic. You nearly lose an eye to a swinging hatch door. But it earns you trust. You're not just a stowaway anymore. You're Jack, the runner. The wiry one who never drops the message, even when the ship's listing had a near vertical angle. Quirky fact? Some pirates believed that if a runner tripped during their first delivery of the day, the ship was cursed for that voyage. So they'd force runners to spit over their left shoulder and knock on wood literally. You adopt this ritual. It seems ridiculous, but hey, you're still alive, aren't you? And then, out of nowhere, the carpenter dies. Heart attack. Middle of the night. Drops like a stone on the poop deck. They need a replacement fast, and while you're not officially skilled, you've been watching him for weeks. You volunteer. The captain squints. Know your knots? You nod. Can you patch a hull in rain? You hesitate, then nod again. He grunts. Fine, but if it leaks, I drown you myself. No pressure. You start learning fast. Measuring planks, sealing leaks with tar and oakum, shading splinters out of hands thicker than rope. It's filthy, meticulous work, but it teaches you the bones of the ship, where it groans, where it sings, where it hides. By now, the crew's taken to calling you Scrap instead of Jack. It started as a joke. Your pocket's always full of nails, rags, and biscuit crumbs. But names don't hurt you anymore. You use them. Scrap is small, silent, useful. Scrap can get into tight places. Scrap overhears everything. One night, you're below deck, hammering a warped support beam into place when you find it a cache. Coins, letters, a ring wrapped in velvet. It's hidden so cleverly you nearly miss it. You don't steal, but you memorize every inch. You might need it later. Historians still argue whether pirates kept individual stashes or pooled everything in a common chest. The truth? Both. Trust was relative. Paranoia was policy. If someone trusted you enough to show you a hiding place, that meant something. It meant you mattered. You finally get invited to a card game. It's the true test not of skill, but of inclusion. Cards mean conversation. Rumors. Jokes you're expected to understand. You keep your voice low, your eyes sharp, and you lose just enough to avoid suspicion. When someone jokes about Scrap being too slippery to pin down, you smile. It's the right kind of attention. Then one night, a storm. Not weather, a storm of men. A bar brawl turns into a ship raid. You're docked. Half the crew's drunk. Thieves pour aboard with knives and torches. You're woken by smoke. Chaos. Screaming. You grab the hammer. You swing hard. Not at heads, at legs. Knees. You're small. Fast. Forget swords. You've got gravity and rage. Someone grabs your collar. You twist, slam the butt of the hammer into their gut, and roll. It's over in minutes, but the captain sees you. Really sees you. Not just Scrap, not Jack, you. He nods once, like a passing cloud, and walks away. After that, no one questions your place. No one asks why your voice is softer, or your shirt's buttoned too tight. You've earned your space, not with charm or lies, but with blisters, bruises, and the memory of goat smugglers. You're not dreaming of treasure chests or fame anymore. You're dreaming of sails, your own sails, and the wind singing your name. They say blood is thicker than water, but out here, family doesn't come from birth. It comes from survival. You didn't choose these people. You didn't even like half of them when you started. But somewhere between storm-drenched nights, shared rations, and the kind of silence only the open sea offers, something shifts. It starts with a cup. You're seasick again and hunched over the rail, groaning like a dying walrus. Someone hands you a cup of ginger brew, thick as mud, and probably brewed in someone's boot. It's disgusting. It helps. You never learn who made it. That's not the point. Later, someone patches a tear in your sleeve without a word. Then, another crewmate teaches you a better way to wrap your fingers before climbing the rigging. So you don't lose your grip in your skin, they grunt. You nod. Little things. Small threads. But they start to weave something bigger. There's no word for it. Not really. It's not friendship too fragile. It's not love too dangerous. But it's trust, forged slow and sharp. And before you know it, you've got a family. Historians still debate whether pirate crews functioned as democratic collectives or chaotic mobs. Evidence suggests both, depending on the captain and crew. Some had articles formal agreements about loot shares, conduct, and support for injured sailors. Others, total anarchy. But in either case, the bonds were real. Out here, you protect each other, or you die alone. Your shipmates become mirrors. You see yourself reflected in their scars, their quirks. The cook who hums lullabies while sharpening knives. The gunner who won't sleep without her pet rat tucked into her shirt. The sailor with missing fingers who can still tie a one-handed knot faster than you blink. All of them odd. All of them yours. And then there's her. You notice her in fragments. The way she checks knots twice. The scar under her ear. The quiet, calm voice that cuts through chaos like a compass needle. You think she might know about you. You think she might be hiding something too. One night, while restocking tar barrels, your hands brush. Just for a second, but it lingers. You don't speak. You don't have to. The silence hums like a struck bell. Quirky fact. There's evidence of female pirates forming secret pacts, and in rare cases, romantic relationships with each other, though documentation is sparse and often coded. One private journal, later deciphered, referred to a storm sister, believed to mean a romantic partner disguised as a fellow crewmate. Historians argue over the translation, of course. You and the woman with the calm voice begin working shifts together more often. No one comments. Pirates aren't known for nosiness, unless it affects their rum. You start sharing things. Not big things. A half-rotten apple you salvaged. A joke about the quartermaster's weirdly small feet. A memory about someone you used to know may be real, maybe not. And when she hands you a silver ring she found in a fish belly, you don't ask. You just tie it to your wrist and sleep better that night. There's another kind of family, too. The ones you leave behind. You think about them less these days. Whoever they were, whatever they meant. Maybe a mother who gave up. A father who didn't notice when you vanished. Maybe no one at all. Just a house with leaky windows and too many ghosts. But sometimes, when the sea is quiet and the stars are cruelly bright, you remember a voice, a lullaby, a slap, a moment you mistook for love. You let the memory swell, then break like a wave. You've got other people now. One night, you catch a fellow crewmate sneaking back onto the ship, bruised and grinning. He's stolen a chicken, a live one. No one knows what to do with it, so it becomes the ship's mascot. It roosts in the crow's nest, lays eggs in the helmsman's hat. You name it Glory. The name sticks. Later, the same crewmate is caught with a bottle of stolen gin. Normally, that's a flogging offense. But instead, the captain sighs, takes the swig, and says, "If you're going to steal, at least share." The crew laughs. A rare thing? That laughter? It's glue. There's a code among you, unwritten, often unspoken. You bleed together, so you patch each other up. You lie for each other, so you lie less to yourselves. And when someone's boots are empty one morning, you don't ask questions. You drink in their honor and keep their hammock unclaimed for a week. One stormy evening, someone falls overboard. The sea grabs them fast. No time for ceremony. But that night, someone carves their name into the mast. You trace the letters with your fingers. Not because you knew them well, but because someone will do the same for you someday. You used to believe you were alone in this life, that your mask was your shield. That trust was a trap. But now, as you sit on deck with a rat on your lap, a chicken in the crow's nest, and someone humming beside you while darning your sleeve, you think, maybe you were wrong. Maybe you can belong. Maybe, just maybe, you already do. You don't own a mirror. Not because you can't afford one, though you definitely can't, but because you're afraid of what you'll see, or not see, or remember. But even without reflections, you know what you look like. Sun-blasted, wind-cut. Your hair's hacked short unevenly, sometimes scorched at the ends from galley fires. Your fingers are calloused in ways no girl from a drawing room would understand. Your nails are stubby, and sometimes black with grime or gunpowder. Your skin is mottled with rope burns and faint scars little, reminders of close calls and poor landings. And you've got style. You just wouldn't call it that. Your sleeves are always rolled past your elbows. You wear a bandana sometimes to hide the sweat, sometimes to hide your face. You favor dark colors because they show fewer stains, though once, in a rare burst of recklessness, you wore a red sash. You looked like a target. Never again. Out here, fashion isn't flair, it's function. You learn quickly what fabrics cling when wet, what boots blister after a long shift at the pump, which hats survive storms, and which fly off the minute the wind dares you to blink. You become a connoisseur of the practical. Buckles that snap instead of tie, belts that double as weapon straps, pants with extra pockets, some hidden, some decoys. Mainstream fact: pirates did not all wear flamboyant, Captain Hook-style outfits. Most wore whatever they could salvage or steal: military coats, merchant uniforms, or even discarded noblemen's clothes dyed with indigo or walnut husks. Many female pirates wore the same, blending into their crew by choice, not obligation. You do the same, but you also leave marks small, subtle, A stitch of gold thread at your cuff, a carved symbol on your belt buckle, an earring made from a shark's tooth you found in a barrel. You don't know if it's lucky, but it's yours. That makes it magic enough. One of your crewmates, everyone calls her Hooks, though she has 10 fingers, starts crafting jewelry from scrap metal. She melts down coins, reshapes nails, even reforges belt buckles into rings. You trade her a hair comb for a copper pendant shaped like a crescent moon. It's sharp. You pretend it's decorative. You know it's a weapon. Quirky tidbit. Some female pirates were said to hide razors in their earrings or hairpins. One apocryphal tale tells of a woman who disarmed a guard by unscrewing her pendant and flinging the tiny blade into his eye. Historians debate its plausibility, but you keep checking your jewelry now, just in case. One evening, you help sew a torn mainsail. It takes hours. Your hands are stiff, your back worse. Someone jokes that you must have been a tailor's daughter. You smile and say nothing. But later, alone, you stitch a pattern into the hem of your shirt. Not flowers, not initials. Just a symbol you invent on the spot. A circle around a single line. A mast, maybe. A compass. A name. Someone else starts copying you. You notice a second shirt with the symbol. Then a third. You say nothing. A trend's begun. You wonder if this is how myths start, not with grand gestures, but with quiet stitches and stubborn choices. One day in port, you spot a dress. Just hanging there, limp and lovely, faded blue with frayed edges and salt-stiff folds. It's probably stolen. It's definitely overpriced. But something about it stops you. You stare. Long enough for a vendor to try and swindle you. For your sister? He asks. You nod. She's braver than me. You say you don't buy it. But that night, you dream of walking through a store in that dress, soaked to the bone, barefoot, hair whipping like a banner. You don't feel weak in the dream. You feel true. Historians still argue whether women disguised as men kept any token of their femininity hidden in a ribbon, a locket, a perfume vial. Some accounts suggest yes. Others insist it's romantic nonsense. You've got a single scrap of lace tied around the handle of your cutlass. It's gray now, practically invisible, but it flutters when the wind's just right. Your ship's fashion code is unofficial, but unbreakable. Don't wear anything that glitters unless you can fight like it's armor. Don't wear a feather unless you've earned it. Don't ever wear shoes you can't run in. You follow the code, mostly, but you start bending it. A brighter sash, a cleaner collar, a ring you don't hide. Little things. Experiments. Not for attention, but fey reclamation. For the parts of you that refuse to vanish under grit and grime. One day, while repairing rigging, you lose a glove. Just one. It falls into the sea and vanishes. You curse loudly. The next morning, there's a new pair tucked under your hammock. No note, no signature, but a small embroidered S on the cuff your symbol. You wear them, proudly, and when someone jokes about scrap getting soft, you grin. Soft, you say, is just the other side of sharp. It starts with a toothache, a dull throb at first, easy to ignore when you're gutting fish or swabbing the quarterdeck. But by the second night, it feels like there's a tiny, furious animal trying to chew its way out of your jawbone. You don't complain, pirates, don't complain. But you flinch every time the wind hits the wrong side of your face. A crewmate notices. Not the friendly one with the rat. This guy's got 3 gold teeth and a tattoo of a dagger on each knuckle. He offers you a tankard of something brown and viscous. Swish, he says. Then spit or die. Your choice. You swish. You don't spit. You swallow because pirates don't waste good rum. And besides, your gums are numb now. Problem solved. That, of course, leads to the second problem, the hangover. You wake up in a coil of ropes, missing your left boot, and with no idea how you got there. The crewmate with the gold teeth finds your boot 3 feet from the galley balanced perfectly on the edge of a barrel. He calls it art. You call it survival. Historians will tell you that the health of pirates was worse than that of navymen. Technically true. But here's the kicker. Pirates sometimes ate better. Why? They stole better food when supplies were fresh, when luck held. But luck is a fickle beast. On your ship, meals are a game of roulette. One night it's goat stew with actual vegetables. The next, it's hardtack riddled with weevils, and something the cook swears is pickled cabbage that smells like socks. You chew, you swallow, you pray. Or, more often, you just don't ask. That prayer thing? It comes and goes. You used to kneel before bed, maybe. Whispered names, hopes. But now, your prayers sound like this. Don't let that barrel fall on me. Let this rope hold. Please, not another boil. Pirate hygiene is, charitably, a disaster. Baths happen once a month if you're lucky. And soap is usually sand, seawater, or the side of the ship. You scrape more than you scrub. You smell like mildew and grease. And you can always tell when someone new comes aboard. They wrinkle their nose. Then they stop. You all stink. Together, you do your best. You scrape your teeth with a piece of twine. You boil your comb. Once you even tried rinsing your hair in vinegar to kill the lice. It worked, mostly. Your scalp smelled like salad for a week. Quirky historical note? Some pirates believed that rubbing garlic on wounds prevented infection. Others swore by crocodile dung mixed with ash as a sunburn salve. You've tried neither, yet. But health isn't just physical out here. There's a mental toll. A kind of slow unraveling that happens when the sea is quiet too long, or the storms come too close. You start talking to the sails. You name the clouds. You get superstitious. You always tap the mast before going below deck. You avoid tying knots on Sundays. You never whistle too risky, too tempting for the wind to take it as a challenge. Then there are the dreams. Some nights, you're back in your old skin. The one with long hair and soft shoes, and a voice you didn't have to lower. Other nights, you're drowning in a sea of gold coins, beautiful, glittering, and suffocating. You wake up gasping, clutching your cutlass like a lifeline. Your crewmates have their own coping methods. One makes dolls out of rope fibers and names them after people he's lost. Another carves tally marks into the inside of his bunk one for every storm survived. You count too, not with marks, with memories. The people you've saved, the lies you've told, the secrets you've swallowed like bitter pills. You try not to think about the days ahead, the ones where the food runs low and the winds stop blowing, because those days will come. They always do. Once, during a week-long dead calm, you saw a man crack open a barrel of salt pork and find it writhing with maggots. He laughed, not a sane laugh, not a joke, just laughing. Then he tipped the barrel overboard and sat beside it for an hour, talking to the ripples like they owed him something. That night, you eat nothing, but then the wind returns. The sails fill, the ship groans to life, and your crewmates? They sing, not well, but loud, and for a moment your ribs loosen. The ache in your jaw fades. The sun feels like more than punishment. You think know that you're stronger than you were. Harder, sharper. The girl you used to be couldn't have survived this. But you thrive on it. You absorb it. You become it. You even start carrying that tankard again, not always filled, but always there. A little joke, a little reminder, a signal that pain doesn't mean pause, it means keep going. And as the days stretch and blur, you realize something unexpected. For all the grime and bruises, for all the toothaches and tankards and meals with mystery meat, this is the healthiest you've ever felt. Because here, at least, your pain has purpose. There's something about the sea that makes everyone a little religious, even if they swear they're not. You, for instance. You haven't set foot in a chapel since you were small enough to be hauled by the wrist. But lately you've been muttering half prayers at odd hours. Not to saints, not to gods, just ... to the wind, to the ropes, to anything listening. It's not piety, it's insurance. Sailors are a superstitious lot, and pirates are worse. You've seen it all. Salt thrown over shoulders before boarding. A silver coin nailed to the mast for luck. One man refused to wear red ever again after lightning struck the mast during a storm. He only wore brown after that. Said red was a curse magnet. You don't ask. Mainstream history tells us sailors often combined religious rituals with deeply rooted folk beliefs. On pirate ships, that usually meant Catholic symbols alongside curse dolls and sea spells. One Spanish logbook details a crew that kept both a crucifix and a goat skull mounted side by side in their captain's quarters, just in case. You keep your own little rituals. You rub the carved token at your hip 3 times before climbing rigging. You knock on the hull before sleeping. You never say goodbye before leaving port only. See you after the tide. Quirky fact. Some pirates believed whistling on deck summoned storms. Others thought bananas on board were bad luck. You once saw a crewmate toss 3 bananas overboard with such urgency you thought they were grenades. Storm omens come in many forms. Birds flying inland too fast. Rats leaving the ship without warning. Sudden dead calm after days of steady wind. When those things happen, no one says it out loud, but the tension thickens. Conversations shorten. Eyes stay skyward. You've got your own signs. You once dreamed of black sails just before a skirmish broke out. Now, if you dream them again, you stay up all night sharpening your knife. And then there are the ghosts. Every ship has them. The ones who died mid-voyage. The ones buried at sea with no coin on their eyes. The ones who went overboard in the dark and were never found. You hear them sometimes. The creak that's not from wood. The whisper when the wind is still. Your bunkmate swears she saw a face in the water, once pale, watching, expressionless. You don't argue. You just tuck your pendant under your shirt and sleep with one eye open. During a particularly rough week, 2 injuries, 1 case of fever, and a near collision with a merchant vessel the captain calls for purging the deck. Everyone lines up and tosses something into the sea. A button, a coin, a tooth. You throw in a shard of mirror. The ship feels lighter after. Or maybe that's just your imagination. You find yourself creating tiny shrines. Nothing grand, just a grouping of objects under your hammock. A feather, a scrap of red cloth, a wooden token shaped like a fish. Things that wouldn't matter to anyone else, but to you, they're offerings, anchors, proof that you exist outside your disguise. One day, the ship finds a bottle floating near the shoals. Inside is a note, smudged and water-warped, but readable. Tell my wife I sailed east. I never meant to go. It's unsigned. The crew reads it, shrugs, and drinks the rum that was also in the bottle. You keep the note. Historians still argue whether pirates believed in fate or just acted like they did. Evidence from ship logs and trial transcripts suggest a mix. Some saw their actions as punishment from God, others as rebellion against him. You don't know where you stand, but you do know you feel better after lighting a candle in a wine bottle and watching the wax pool. One crewmate starts painting symbols on the inside of her locker circles. Arrows, eyes. No one questions it. She does it before battle, before storms, before anything. You help her once just to see. Your fingers leave a smudge that looks like a fishhook. You keep it there. Later, you carve a new pattern into the handle of your blade. Not for luck, not for gods. Just to say, I'm still here. You touch it before every landing, before every lie. And when you wake one night to the sound of soft singing, someone humming a lullaby you haven't heard since before you left land, you don't panic. You don't ask who it is. You just close your eyes, hum the next line, and sleep better than you have in weeks. Because out here, belief isn't about doctrine or salvation. It's about staying sane. It's about control in a world that has none. It's about making meaning out of madness. Even if all you've got is a candle, a chant, and a piece of salted string tied around your wrist. Your hands look delicate in the lamplight. Slender fingers, nimble joints, tiny scars crossing every knuckle like faint memory lines. No one would guess how dangerous they are, not unless they've seen what you can do with a needle. You didn't plan to become the ship's unofficial seamstress. It started by necessity. A torn cuff, a split hem, a boot sole flapping like a fish's mouth. You could sew. You didn't brag. You just stitched, quietly, cleanly, better than most. Soon, others noticed. The burly lookout with a rip in his trousers. The quartermaster whose coat kept losing buttons. The captain grudgingly handing over his favorite hat after it caught a splinter during a scuffle. You mended it all. But you did more than mend. You modified. That's where the power began. A coat with a hidden pocket stitched into the lining. A handkerchief with a double seam that concealed a flake of flint. A belt loop reinforced to carry weight far heavier than a pistol. You started adding features to your own clothes, just for you. Just in case. Quirky fact, some female pirates reportedly used sewing kits as their first weapons. Tiny scissors became stabbing tools. Straight pins laced with plant toxins. Thimbles filled with powdered glass. You're not quite that dramatic. But you do keep a needle sharpened to a point finer than any nail, wrapped in wax twine and tucked inside your shirt collar. One evening, while replacing the patch on your breeches, you find yourself humming a tune. Something old, familiar. A lullaby, maybe. The hum becomes rhythm. The rhythm becomes focus. Stitch, pull, knot. There's peace in repetition, precision, control. But sewing is never just sewing on a ship like this. You patch a tear for a crewmate with quiet eyes and a wary smile. While you work, he talks. Not much, just a memory of his sister, how she taught him to braid rope. He calls her the only real captain he's ever known. You nod. You understand. That night, you sew a braid into the edge of your shirt, 3 strands of thread, tied tight. A secret tribute. Your work evolves. A cuff gets a reinforced seam. A collar gets extra space perfect for tucking away a note, a key, a folded map. You're tailoring your own survival. You also start carrying a pouch, not for thread and buttons, but for things no one expects. A sliver of bone sharpened to a point. A twist of wire curved like a lockpick. A needle, long and silver, polished so finely it reflects moonlight. Mainstream fact. During piracy's golden age, prisoners were often bound by rope or iron shackles, but rarely searched thoroughly unless suspected of carrying weapons. That made hidden tools a crucial advantage. One 1720s court record described a woman who escaped her holding cell by using a pin no longer than her smallest finger hidden in her corset. You don't wear a corset, but you do wear secrets. You stitch one into the hem of your undershirt. A name, not yours. Someone you knew once. Someone who saved you from something worse than drowning. No one sees it. That's the point. It's not for them. And then one night you do something bold. You embroider. Just a little. Nothing flashy. Just a symbol you saw in a dream, a wave, cresting into a spiral. You use navy thread, nearly black, so it only shows when the light hits right. It sits on your left sleeve, close to the elbow, the spot that always hits the railing when you lean to watch the stars. Someone notices. You've got flair now, Scrap? A crewmate teases. You shrug. Helps me remember which side's left. Laughter. The kind that doesn't sting. The next week, they ask you for flair. A stitched star. A jagged line. A broken anchor. Tiny things that mean everything to someone trying to stay seen in a world built to ignore them. Soon, half the crew has marks. No one admits to it being fashion, but everyone wears theirs with pride. The captain never asks, but you catch him eyeing your sleeve once. The next morning, you find a small leather scrap on your hammock, blank, unmarked, but oiled and softened, waiting. You stitch a circle into it, nothing else. You don't return it. You keep it. There's power in thread, in what it holds, in what it hides. Because every stitch you make is a decision. Every loop is a lock, and every knot a key. And while the world still sees you as Scrap, the runner, the patcher, the background boy with quiet hands, you know the truth. You are building armor, not of steel, but of stories sewn into cloth. The ports teach you how to read eyes, not words, not body language, just eyes. Because on land, people have time to pretend, to dress a lie in lace, powder its cheeks, and rehearse its script. But their eyes never catch up fast enough. And in these towns, Barbados, Nassau, Port Royal, Tortuga glances are currency. A glance that lingers too long can buy you trouble. A glance that flicks too fast can mark you as prey. You walk a tightrope, your gaze always just right. Your first real lesson comes in a tavern whose floor is permanently sticky. You're pouring grog for your quartermaster as a favor. No one else dares do it since the last barmaid spilled and got her front tooth chipped for the trouble. You move quickly, carefully. Then someone whistles. Not a catcall, not even loud. Just a low, deliberate whistle that cuts through the chatter like a blade through cloth. You glance up too fast. Wrong move. The man who made the sound leans back. One gold tooth. One lazy eye. He smirks like a dog sniffing weakness. You quickly look away, but not before you catch it, the tiny flicker in his expression. He knows not what you are. Not yet, but he knows you're not a threat. Or at least not trying to be one. That's what they always think. At first, he starts walking your way. You're saved by a bottle flying, shattering, followed by a brawl that sucks the whole room into chaos. You slip out the back door and run until the sound of broken teeth fades behind you. Historians still argue whether pirates were more dangerous in port or at sea. The truth is, port cities were the real battlegrounds. No sails to shield you, no code to protect you. Just fast feet and faster instincts. You start training your eyes like a weapon. You learn how to hold someone's stare for exactly the right amount of time. Long enough to say, not scared. Short enough to say, not interested. You lower your lashes just slightly when passing dock guards. You widen your gaze when someone bumps into you on purpose. One crewmate teaches you the dead glance, a look so blank it makes people uncomfortable, like you've already watched them die. She says it saved her life once in Havana. You believe her. Quirky fact? In some Caribbean towns, brothels taught their workers to read eye direction the way gamblers read card tells. Looking up and left, lying. Looking down and right. Guilty, you start doing it too. Watching where people look before they speak. You also learn the subtle language of hands. A closed fist on a tankard equals tension. Drumming fingers equals impatience or boredom. A thumb stroking a knife hilt equals run. But nothing is more dangerous than the wrong glance in the wrong company. One night, you're with your crew in a warehouse on the edge of town. It's a meeting. Trade, technically, but everyone's armed. You're sitting on a barrel when a merchant's guard locks eyes with you, and then he frowns. Something flickers across his face. Not recognition, just confusion. Like he's piecing together a puzzle he didn't know he was solving. You shift your weight. Turn your face away. A minute later, he's talking to his captain, low and fast. You slip out. Quiet. No one follows. The next day, you change your hat. Tuck your chin. Change the angle of your walk. Just enough. Just in case. You don't go back to that port. There's power in glances, too. A woman in a spice shop slips you a satchel of dried oranges after seeing you swap out coin weights. She never says a word. Her eyes say, "I saw nothing." A cabin boy barely taller than your hip nods at you once while slipping into the shadows after lifting a captain's ring. You nod back. And then there's her again, the woman with the calm voice, the clever hands. She watches you differently. Not suspiciously, just thoroughly. Like she's not just looking at you, but into you. One night, you catch her staring. You meet her eyes. Hold them. Don't blink. She smirks and walks away. You smile and keep watching. Mainstream note. Some pirate crews communicated in ports using only hand signals and glances. These codes varied ship to ship design, not just for secrecy, but survival. Knowing when to look and when to look away could mean the difference between returning to sea or not returning at all. You begin crafting your own signals. A brush of the left ear, get out. A glance over the shoulder, follow me. A hand at your throat, danger close. You practice them with the few crewmates you trust. They catch on quick. Soon you're moving through ports like a ghost wrapped in flesh. No one sees you unless you want to be seen. You leave no footprints, no name, no scent. Only glances. And if someone does remember you, it's only ever like this. There was someone strange in that tavern. Didn't speak. Watched everything. Left before the fight. And then nothing. Because your story isn't told in words. It's told in the space between stares. You're curled up in the hold one night, waiting for the rain to pass and the ship to stop shivering from lightning. It's pitch black. All you can hear is the groan of wet wood and the creak of the anchor line. Then a sound, light, delicate, a skittering patter like claws across canvas. You freeze. It's not a rat. You know rats. This is something else. Tiny paws, many of them. A sniff. A chirp. A whir. You light a stub of candle, and there it is. A monkey. No bigger than a loaf of bread. Fur the color of old brass. Eyes too round, too knowing. It's holding a spool of thread from your sewing kit. Judging you. You stare. It bares its teeth. You snatch back the spool. It doesn't run. Just sits there, tail curled, like it owns the hull and you're the intruder. From above deck, someone shouts, "Midge, get back here!" The monkey chitters and scrambles up the rope netting, vanishing like smoke. Turns out, it does own the hull, and half the crew. Midge the monkey belongs to Hooks, the crew's unofficial medic/bone mender. Hooks picked her up in a pork market because she winked at me. That's the entire story. And Midge is not the only odd pet on board. There's also Beans the rat in the gunner's pocket, who rides into battle and bites fingers not holding him right. There's Glory, the chicken with an attitude and a vendetta against the cook. There's a cat named Soup, who will only sleep on the captain's maps. And once, there was a snake named Friday, who mysteriously vanished after shedding in someone's boots. Mainstream fact: pirates often kept exotic pets, not just parrots, but monkeys, goats, rats, even iguanas. These animals weren't just mascots. They were companions, symbols of luck, or reminders of home. Sometimes they were weapons. One French account from the 1700s describes a monkey trained to snatch purses mid-market. You bond with Beans first. It's not love at first sniff. He bites you when you try to pet him. But then one evening, while cleaning the powder room, you find him curled on your bedroll. He doesn't move, just blinks and stays. So now you have a rat. You never named anything before, not even yourself. But naming a rat? That's different. That's safe. Beans becomes your shadow. He rides in your coat when it's cold, perches on your shoulder when the sea's calm. When it storms, he hides in your pocket and vibrates with the ship. Sometimes you whisper to him. He never answers, but he always listens. Your crewmates don't judge. Not here. Everyone has a companion. Something to talk to when people get too loud or too far. Something alive to touch when the night feels endless and the waves keep singing the wrong names. Quirky tidbit. It's rumored that a notorious woman, Pirate Margaret the Black, trained her pet raven to mimic crew orders. She once fooled an entire boarding party into retreating by having it scream, "Fire," in 5 different voices. Historians roll their eyes, but secretly, you hope it's true. Midge becomes your nemesis. She steals your thread. She hides your comb. Once she pees in your boot. You swear revenge. Hooks laughs and says Midge is just asserting dominance. You mutter something about soup pots. But then, during a skirmish near San Juan, the rigging snaps. A cannon rolls. Panic erupts. And you find Midge trembling in a locker, eyes wide, fingers knotted in your scarf. You scoop her up without thinking. She clings to you the rest of the night. Hooks finds you both curled under a bench, soaked and shivering, but alive. After that, Midge tolerates you. Occasionally even grooms your hair. A high honor. You begin to understand these animals aren't distractions. They're anchors. In a world that shifts constantly, that redefines danger every time the wind changes, they are the one thing that doesn't lie. Beans doesn't care who you pretend to be. He only cares if your collar is warm. Midge doesn't care if you pass as a boy or a ghost. She just wants your buttons. Soup doesn't care about anything, but that's cats for you. Sometimes when the sun sets just right and the deck is quiet, you line them all up. Beans in your lap. Midge beside your leg. Glory clucking nearby. You sit with them and breathe. Because out here, loyalty is rare. But these creatures, they choose you, day after day. No demands, no masks, no rules. And for a moment, just a heartbeat, you remember what trust feels like. Even if it comes with fleas. The first time you see your face on a wanted poster, it's not your face. It's a sketch crude rushed, almost lazy. The nose is too long. The chin is too round. The eyes? Empty. But the name printed underneath sends a cold spike down your spine. Jack. You're Jack. Not the real you, but the version you've carefully curated, like a story told one page at a time. Jack the deckhand. Jack the runner. Jack the boy with quick feet and quiet hands. Jack who never speaks too loudly. Jack who's seen too much. Dead or alive, 20 pieces of silver. You snort. You're worth more than that. Still, it's a problem. Because a face any face on parchment means someone's watching. Someone's guessing. Someone's remembering. And when you've spent your entire life crafting the perfect forgettable existence, that's the worst kind of attention. You steal the poster. Just pluck it off the in-wall when no one's looking. Fold it up. Stuff it deep in your pocket. Later that night, you burn it. The flame is fast and greedy. You watch the ashes spiral like dying birds into the sea breeze. Your second poster shows up a week later. Different port. Same sketch. Same bounty. Higher price. This time, someone else sees it. Hooks. She doesn't say anything, just eyes you, then the poster, then you again. A slow, dry blink. Then she tears it down herself and uses it to wrap a fish she's been meaning to dry. You never speak of it again. Mainstream fact. Pirate wanted posters were often wildly inaccurate. Artists rarely saw the criminals they sketched, relying on second-hand descriptions, tavern rumors, or drunken guesswork. One infamous female pirate was listed under 5 different aliases across 3 nations, with 3 different genders and 2 separate eye colors. You realize you can use this. You start planting decoys. A hat left on a hook in one town. A borrowed coat worn by a friend in another. A note accidentally dropped in a tavern, hinting that Jack is heading west. You create echoes. Versions of yourself scattered across the map, like breadcrumbs, some real, some deliberate fictions. You even fake a grave. In a quiet cove off the southern coast, there's a tiny marker rocks piled carefully, a crude cross stuck into the sand. The name, Jack Marlin. The cause, fever. You carved it yourself. You dug it yourself. Someone once told you that pretending to be dead was the best way to stay alive. You're starting to believe it. Quirky tidbit. Some pirates staged their own deaths to escape the law, leaving behind blood-stained clothes, forged notes, or entire funerals attended by bribed locals. In one case, a woman faked her death twice the second time with a goat carcass dressed in her stolen coat. You don't go that far, yet, but you start preparing just in case. Your sewing becomes more elaborate. You stitch names into your cuff's aliases, not yours. One says Eli. One says Thomas. One, just for fun, says Captain Finn. No one asks. If they did, you'd shrug and say they're lovers, or ghosts, or debts, whatever fits the mood. You tuck a small satchel under your hammock. Inside are identity scraps, a wig, a painted patch for your eye, an old blouse from a port girl who traded it for a knife. You're building people, backups, options, and then your third poster. This one's different. It's closer. The sketch still isn't perfect, but the jaw is sharper, the eyes narrower, and the bounty? 50 silver. That's a lot for a deckhand. Someone somewhere is getting warmer. You panic for about a minute. Then you calm down, because this time you're ready. You disappear for 3 days. Not gone, just invisible. You stay below deck, fake a fever. Let the ship pull away from the port before resurfacing like nothing happened. When asked where you were, you say, Lost a bet. No one blinks. Historians still argue whether pirate crews protected their own when under pressure. Some sources suggest captains sold out high-value members to save the majority. Others insist pirate loyalty was unmatched, with some crews risking mutiny rather than betray their own. You suspect the truth lies somewhere in the middle, so you prepare for both. You give Hooks a sealed note. If I vanish, you say, burn it, or don't. Up to you. She shrugs. Can I read it? Eventually. And in the quiet of night, you start practicing your next name. Not Jack. Jack is getting too loud, too known. Maybe Eli this time. Or Finn. Or maybe no name at all. Just a smile and a knife. Because if they're going to chase ghosts, you'll give them one worth fearing. There's a sound you don't forget. Not thunder, not cannon fire, not the scream of rope snapping under strain. It's smaller, quieter, a whimper that slices through the haze of salt and sweat. A baby. You freeze. It's somewhere below deck, soft and rhythmic like a tide. You're in the hold, counting rations, running inventory when you hear it. A stowaway, you think, or some sailor's secret shame. Either way, it doesn't belong here. You follow the sound through the crates, past barrels of biscuit and sacks of weevil-laced rice, until you find her curled between the crates, wrapped in a torn cloak, rocking a bundle of swaddling in her arms. Her eyes are wide, red-rimmed, and full of fire. You don't speak. Neither does she. Just a nod. A threat and a plea in the same breath. You nod back and leave her be. Later, you slip her a biscuit, a real one, from your own stash. That's how it starts. Her name is Lena. You don't learn that for days. She's not a pirate, not yet. She's just a woman who ran out of places to hide and stepped onto the wrong ship at the right time. The baby is hers. Quiet mostly. Pale. Eyes like the sea on a sick day. You don't tell the captain. You don't tell anyone. Not because you're afraid of punishment, but because the sea already demands too much. You won't offer it a child. Mainstream fact. While rare, historical records do document women giving birth at sea, including on pirate ships. Some accounts describe entire crews rallying around the child, while others report immediate abandonment, or worse. The laws of the sea were brutal, and babies weren't in the bylaws, but Lena survives. She earns her place. She sews. She cooks. She sharpens blades, and once quietly, precisely, she knocks a man out cold with a ladle when he reached for her baby. After that, no one questions her. And the baby? The crew adopts her in increments. One man carves her a rattle. Another leaves a ribbon on her cradle. You rig a net hammock near your bunk, lined with old shirts, so she can sway with the ship. She stops crying so much after that. Hooks checks her weakly, taps her knees, hums at her heartbeat, mutters something in a language you don't know. Declares her stubborn as a barnacle. It's the highest compliment. You find yourself watching Lena closely, not just out of curiosity, out of awe. She balances everything danger and diapers, threats and lullabies. She sharpens her knives while nursing. She rocks the baby with one foot while sewing patches into the sail. She whispers stories in the dark about islands that never sink and stars that never lie. You start writing them down. Not all, just the ones you remember, the ones that stick. Lena catches you once. You think she'll be angry. Instead, she nods. Someone should remember. You don't say it, but you think, I'm trying. Quirky tidbit? There's an obscure legend of a pirate ship called the Milkmaid, captained by a woman who allegedly raised 3 children at sea, each named after a wind. While no physical proof exists, the tale survives in ballads sung in certain coastal taverns, always by women, always with a hint of reverence. One night, the baby now called Mar gets sick. Fever, shaking, shallow breaths. The ship tilts toward morning. Lena holds her tight, won't sleep, won't eat. The crew offers potions, prayers, nonsense, and noise. You sit beside them, candlelight flickering, and sing. Not well, not loudly, but the song you hum is old. Your mother's, maybe, or someone else's. It tastes like soot and cinnamon. Mar sleeps. The fever breaks by morning. After that, she giggles when she sees you. You let her pull your hair. You let her chew on your finger. You start wearing gloves again. Because one day, someone asks, "Did you ever think of having your own?" And you say, too fast, too sharp, no. Because truth is, you don't know. You never had a plan that went beyond next week. You don't know what it means to be safe, to be rooted, to love something fragile without expecting it to vanish. But when Mar reaches for your cutlass and gurgles with delight, you let her hold it. Just for a second, just the hilt. Because maybe she won't have to vanish. Maybe none of you will. Later, you stitch her name, just the 3 letters, into the inside of your shirt. Tiny, hidden, permanent. You don't mean for it to happen. It's a glance too long, a laugh too real, a moment barely a breath, when the world tilts, and suddenly, pretending feels like the lie. It starts with a shared watch at the bow, rain tapping lightly on the deck, the stars too shy to show. You're wrapped in your coat, boots soaked, arms crossed to stay warm. She's beside you, quiet, always. The calm in the storm, as if her presence alone keeps the sea from clawing the ship apart. You've known her for months now, long enough to memorize her hands, the way she knots rope with her eyes closed, long enough to recognize her moods by the way she chews the inside of her cheek, long enough to want her name to be the last thing you say before sleep. And she looks at you, not like a crewmate, not like a boy, just you. And suddenly, your skin feels thin, like parchment soaked in rum. You swallow hard, look away, but it's too late. Mainstream fact. Though taboo and rarely recorded openly, same-sex relationships did exist among pirates. The term metellitage described formalized partnerships, sometimes romantic, sometimes economic, between male sailors. Female versions were rarer, harder to trace, often hidden behind layered lies and coded journals. But you don't have a journal. You just have stolen moments. She starts finding reasons to be near you, sitting a little closer, laughing a little longer. Once, she hands you a pear from her rations, fresh, juicy, bruised only at the tip. "Found it. Thought of you," she says. You eat it in 2 bites, pretending it's no big deal. But it is. One night, she touches your wrist. Just a finger, tracing the inside where the skin is softest. You flinch. Not from fear, but from wanting more. She pulls back. "Sorry," she murmurs. "Don't be." And there it is. The door cracks open. It's not dramatic. No thunderclap. No sudden kiss under firelight. It's quiet, careful, a slow unraveling of everything you've bound tight. She becomes your refuge, your reason to breathe deeper, walk slower, sleep softer. But love, real love, is dangerous, because love notices. And if she notices, others might too. You start making mistakes. A blush you don't hide fast enough. A smile that lingers too long. One night, you forget your voice and speak in your real tone, higher, softer you. A silence follows. A crewmate sails, the one with the crooked grin and greedy. Eyes tilts his head. That was sweet, almost ladylike. You laugh it off. Too hard. But now Sales watches you. Not openly. Not cruelly. Just often. He stands near during meals. Asks odd questions. Where are you from again? Got any family? Ever been kissed? You play dumb. Until the letter. It appears in your locker. No name. No signature. Just 6 words scrawled in black ink. She deserves to know the truth. You crumple it. Burn it. But the ash clings to your fingers, as if it has something more to say. That night, you can't sleep. You sit on the deck, back against the mast, watching the moon spill silver across the water. She finds you there, wordless, hands you a mug of warm tea. You take it. She sits beside you. I know, she says. 3 words. No accusation, no anger. Just knowledge, heavy and honest. You stare straight ahead. Since when? Since always, she whispers. I was just waiting for you to say it first. The relief is a punch to the gut. You exhale, and it sounds like a sob. She leans her head on your shoulder. Will it change, you ask? No, she says. Only deepen. But the sea doesn't allow secrets to stay sweet for long. Sales speaks up during a skirmish, loud enough for others to hear. Our little Jack's not what he seems, huh? Silence. Someone laughs half-hearted, unsure. You freeze, hand on your blade. But before anyone else can speak, the captain steps in. Unless Jack's been stealing gold or breaking sails, he says. I don't give a damn what Jack is. And he walks away. And just like that, it passes, mostly. Some crewmates look at you sideways for a while. Others treat you the same. A few softer. A few colder. But you remain. Quirky tidbit. One recorded case from 1721 details a female pirate pardoned after trial when her lover also. A crew member testified she had saved his life twice during raids. Their relationship, though exposed, was never punished. Some scholars believe their loyalty to each other overrode societal judgment. Loyalty. It's a funny thing at sea. It isn't about who you were before. It's about who you've bled with, who you've laughed with, who you'll drag through a storm, even when your legs give out. And as she slips her fingers between yours below deck, away from watchful eyes, you think, let them say what they want. You've survived worse than love. You know the sea hates hubris. The moment you feel safe, really safe, is the moment she reminds you who's boss. The first storm you live through, you barely remember it. Just wind, noise, water everywhere, and fear so thick you could chew it. But this storm, the one that comes now, it breaks the calm and thrashes every nail in the hull. This one wants blood. It starts at dusk. A red sky. You've heard the rhyme. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. But this one feels wrong. Too deep, like rust spreading through the clouds. By midnight, the wind howls like it's alive. The sails thrash. The deck pitches. Rain hits like fists. You've done this before. You know what to do. But it doesn't matter. The ship becomes a beast snarling, bucking, spitting. People scream. Ropes snap. The foremast cracks like a dry bone. You're ordered below. You go, but only after shoving the youngest crewmate toward the hatch, pushing so hard he stumbles. You think, if he survives, he'll learn to hate you for it. Below deck, it's chaos. Water sloshes ankle deep, crates rolling like dice. You brace yourself with your back against the wall, hands raw from clutching beams. And then you hear it groan so low, so deep, it feels like the ship is weeping. The hull, it's starting to give. Hooks appears beside you, soaked, blood at her temple. She grabs your shoulder. Hold the pump line, she yells, and pray. You do both. You survive. But barely. By dawn, the storm has passed. The ship is crippled, masts splintered, sails shredded, rudder hanging limp. 2 crew members missing. 1 arm shattered. Everyone bruised. Everyone quiet. You sit on the deck, face to the sky, and laugh. It's not joy. It's defiance. You lived. Mainstream fact. The Korean is infamous for sudden, brutal storms, especially during hurricane season. Pirate ships, often poorly maintained, were particularly vulnerable. Survivors were of sails torn like paper, and waves so tall they blotted out the moon. You carry those words with you now. Blotted out the moon. That's how it felt. But the sea doesn't always want to kill you. Sometimes she just wants to remind you she can. Weeks later, after repairs, after new sails and quiet songs to honor the lost, you face another storm. This one's different. Not weather, not wind, people. A merchant ship that doesn't want to be boarded. Cannons that fire before parley. Steel that sings. You're in the thick of it, blade drawn, breath steady. Your body moves without thought. Dodge, lunge, strike. You don't kill unless you must, but when you must, you do. And then she's there, your calm-voiced, fire-eyed lover, back to back with you. Her knife glints, her braid snaps in the wind. You fight like shadows twinned. Then someone grabs her. You see it before she does. He's huge, his blade high. You scream. She ducks just in time. You don't think. You leap. The world spins. There's blood. You don't know whose. When it ends, you're shaking. But she's alive. She cups your face. That was reckless, she says. I'd do it again. Quirky tidbit. In battle, pirates often paired up fighting duos who protected each other's backs. Sometimes bonded by friendship, sometimes by love, always by survival. Some even choreographed moves. One pair was known for fighting with linked arms, moving as one. You and she, you move as one now. But not every danger is loud. Sometimes it whispers. A fever sweeps the ship 2 weeks later. Slow, creeping, ugly. It steals strength, steals clarity. One by one, your crewmates fall into hammocks and mutter dreams they can't wake from. You care for them, feed them, cool their brows. Then it comes for you. You sweat, you shake. You forget where you are. You see faces you haven't seen in years. Some dead, some never real. You dream of drowning. Over and over. She stays beside you the whole time. Spoon at your lips, wet cloth on your skin. Her voice your anchor. You wake weak, wrung out, but alive. The sea gave you back. Historians argue whether pirates were more resilient than Navy men. The answer lies in who had someone to save them. Pirates who mattered, who had people lived longer. Those who didn't disappeared. You mattered. You matter. And now, when the wind howls, you don't flinch. You face it. You speak to it. You whisper, not today. You can't stay masked forever. Not the kind you wear on your face, the metaphorical kind sewn tight with lies and silence. It gets heavy. The longer you wear it, the more it rubs raw. Eventually, it cracks, and when it does, you'd better be dancing. Your first masquerade happens on shore. The crew lands in a port preparing for some local festival. Bonfires, drums, faces painted in blue and gold. Everyone's drunk before nightfall, and by midnight, strangers are kissing each other without asking names. You walk through the crowd in a borrowed coat, a bird-shaped mask obscuring everything but your eyes. No one sees Jack. No one sees you either. But in a strange way, that's freedom. You're not pretending to be someone else. You're no one. Just eyes behind a beak, steps in rhythm with music you've never heard before and may never hear again. She's there too, wearing a cat mask, laughing, spinning. She moves like flame, and when she grabs your hand and pulls you into the dance, you follow. You think, this is what normal feels like. It doesn't last. Mainstream fact. Pirates sometimes took part in local festivals while ashore, especially in Korean or South American ports. Some ships timed landings to coincide with holidays, believing that disguises and chaos made for easy looting or better hiding. Later that night, you break into a warehouse with her and 3 crewmates. Not for treasure, just for fun. Just to chase adrenaline. You steal wine. She steals candied almonds. Someone finds a lute and starts playing. You all sing badly, but the mask slips in more ways than one. One crewmate sails again, of course starts looking too closely, laughing too sharply. Funny how the boy doesn't drink, he says, or fight like a man, or even sit like one. You shrug, smile, offer him the wine. Maybe I'm just better than you. He doesn't push, not that night, but the game has changed. You begin using your mask on purpose. You adopt different roles in every port. Sometimes you're a stuttering apprentice. Sometimes you're the drunk cousin of a rich merchant. Once you play a mute. That one's easiest. People talk more when they think you can't hear. You start enjoying it. You keep a bag of trinkets to help the illusion. Glasses with no lenses, a red scarf, a fake mole you stick on with ash and wax, a limp, a whistle only you can make. You turn into a dozen people, depending on the night. And then your best trick yet. You pose as a noble's courier. Slick coat, satchel, forged seal. You deliver a fake letter to a real port official and walk out with 3 bottles of rum and a map they never meant to share. Your crew calls it the play. You start planning them, rehearsing lines, assigning roles. It becomes a thing. Pirates doing theater. Quirky tidbit. Some real pirate crews were known for impersonation. Not just wearing uniforms of captured ships, but staging entire false identities in ports, complete with wives, servants, and guards. The most elaborate cases involved entire fake funerals to distract from smuggling operations. You wonder sometimes if you missed your calling as an actor. But even actors forget their lines. One day, in a crowded inn, someone calls a name from across the room. Eli. You turn. You shouldn't have turned. It was an old alias. One you haven't used in months. But reflex betrays you. And now someone's watching. You leave that night. Quietly. Not even telling her. Back on the ship, you explain it away. Bad feeling. Too many guards. The captain accepts it. She doesn't. Later, she finds you staring into the water. You can't keep changing masks without forgetting your face, she says. You want to argue, but she's not wrong. So you tell her your real name. Not Jack, not Eli, not the name sewn into your sleeve or whispered by moonlight. Your real name, the one no one's spoken in years. She doesn't laugh. She doesn't flinch. She just says it back, soft, like a promise. And suddenly, the masks feel lighter. Not gone, never gone, but no longer necessary to breathe. You still wear them. You still plan the cons, the games, the aliases. But now, when you do, there's an anchor. A truth beneath the disguise. You're not faking to hide. You're faking to win. And that's a different kind of power. You don't see it coming. After all this time, all these close calls, All these lies stacked on lies, like coins in a chest. You forget that even the best-built mask can crack at the wrong moment. And when it does, it's never in the heat of a battle or under the scrutiny of a captain. It's in the small moments, the ones that don't seem dangerous until it's far too late. It begins with a limp, barely noticeable, a stumble coming down the ladder, a hand pressed too long against the wall, a grimace when you lift your left leg to tie your boot. You tell yourself it's just bruising, maybe twisted something hauling that net yesterday. But the pain lingers. You try to hide it, but she sees. She helps you tighten your boot a little higher, splints your ankle without asking, and whispers. We'll say you fell from the rigging. You nod, grateful, silent. But the others, they notice. Sales watches again. He's always been circling, hasn't he? Like a shark who likes to let the blood trail first. Funny limp, that one's got, he mutters to another crewman. You walk a little straighter, bite the inside of your cheek to do it. But then comes the letter. A courier on shore. Standard routine. Nothing special. You're in port. Supplies are being taken aboard. A man in a dusty blue coat with a crooked hat hands the captain a wax-sealed note and disappears into the market fog. Later, you're summoned. The captain's quarters smell like tobacco and old maps. He doesn't speak, just hands you the letter. You read the name at the top. Yours. Not Jack, not Eli. Yours. The one you gave up. The one you buried. The letter is brief. 2 lines. A reward offer and a warning. Dead or alive. Preferably dead. You fold it carefully. Place it on the desk. I'll leave, you say calm. Measured. No blood. No trouble. The captain leans back. Chews the inside of his cheek. We've had worse aboard. You don't know if that's mercy or strategy. But it's something. You pack that night. No tears. No long goodbyes. You find her on deck, tracing the stars with a fingertip. She doesn't look at you right away. I heard. Of course. A long silence. She finally says, so, that's it. You want to say no. You want to say you'll run, hide, fight, die, anything but go. But the truth hangs too heavy. I'll vanish for a while, you offer. Then start again. You always do. It's not angry. It's not bitter. It's just true. She takes your hand, slips something into it. A ring. The one you gave her months ago, tucked in a crust of bread during a joke gone too serious. Now it's warm from her skin. You don't want to take it, but you do. Quirky fact. Pirates on the run often faked injuries or disfigurements to hide their identities. Some went so far as to scar themselves or remove fingers to avoid recognition from hosters or former crewmates. There are rumors of one woman who posed as her own twin for 5 years. You're not that drastic. Yet you leave at sunrise. A quiet rowboat, a basket of provisions, 1 sword, 2 lies tucked in your boot. The captain doesn't say goodbye, but someone leaves your hat on the dock, the one with the stitched mark only she knew. You don't cry. You just row. You disappear into the mist. But later, weeks from now, in a port where no one speaks your language, you'll hear someone shout a name that almost sounds like yours. You'll turn. You shouldn't, but you will, because that's how the mask slips. Not with a scream, but with a whisper. You don't wake in a cell. You come to. There's a difference. Your wrists are raw from rope. Your mouth tastes like iron. Your coat is gone. Your boots are mismatched, one yours, one someone else's. The floor is stone, damp. The air smells of mildew, dried blood, and old salt that never leaves. You're not alone. You hear breathing too, maybe 3 others in the room. No one speaks. No one needs to. You've all been caught. Your brain claws through memory. The alley in that last port. The shadow that moved too fast. The coin that didn't feel quite right in your hand. You were followed. Maybe sold out. Maybe just unlucky. It doesn't matter now. Mainstream fact. Captured pirates faced varying fates depending on who caught them and where. The British often hanged them. The Spanish were crueler. The French preferred trials that made examples. Some women were spared if pregnant. Others executed with the same swiftness as their male crewmates. You shift against the wall. Chains clink. Your ankle protests still sore from weeks ago. You never gave it time to heal. You never thought you'd need to. There's a window. Barely. High up, grated. You catch a sliver of sky. It's morning, or nearly. Birds chirp, loud, annoying. You laugh. It startles the others. And then you stop, because footsteps approach. Guards, uniformed, bored. One carries a parchment. He reads names aloud, stopping on yours. Not Jack, not Eli, yours. The name you stitched into your coat lining. The one you whispered like a secret. The one she spoke under the stars. That's the name they're going to use at trial. You're dragged out, not roughly, just efficiently, like a crate of dried meat past its use. The world outside is bright, painfully so. You squint. Try to walk steady. Don't give them the satisfaction of a stumble. The courtroom is a farce. Stone walls, wooden benches, a judge too sleepy to care, and a scribe who barely dips his pen. They read charges: theft, disguise, impersonation, piracy. You don't deny them. Why would you? You lived. You lived, didn't you? Better than those noble girls locked in drawing rooms. Better than dock rats who never left the shoreline. You tasted the world, danced with hurricanes, and held someone's heartbeat in your palm. So you stand straight when the sentence is read. Guilty. Of course, death, maybe, jail, possibly, transport. If you're lucky. They ask if you have anything to say. You look around. At the guards, at the scribe, at the sky. Then you smile. Check the harbor. You say the room stills. One guard chuckles. Why? You shrug. They'll come for me. They don't know who they is, but you do. Because you left letters, you left signs. You taught signals to the ones who mattered. And if even one of them sees the mark you carved into that dock beam, they'll know. Quirky tidbit. Some pirates were rescued during trial or transport, their crews posing as guards or bribing officials. One recorded case involved a woman who escaped a courthouse through a tunnel, dug by her lover disguised as a merchant for 3 weeks. You don't expect rescue, but you know better than to expect nothing. In your cell that night, you dream, not of rope, not of gallows, but of sails, light as bone, wings and wind. You're floating now. The sea is quiet. No creak of wood, no call of gulls, just the rhythmic hush of waves gliding beneath your boat. You lie on your back, arms folded, the night sky a curtain of stars above you. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped running. You just are. The moon is soft, bathing your skin in silver, tracing your scars like a cartographer. You remember every one where it happened, who was with you, what you learned from it. Each mark is a story, a lesson, a vow. You close your eyes. The sounds drift further away, no chains, no trials, no shouting crowds. Just a breeze tugging gently at your hair, as if the wind itself is brushing it from your face. You let it. Your fingers twitch. Not in fear, just memory. The feel of rope, of sewing thread, of her hand in yours. You smile. The sea doesn't hate you. Not really. She just needed to know you were real, and now she does. So breathe in, slowly. Feel your lungs fill with the last remnants of salt and starlight. Breathe out even slower. Let go of the tension in your neck, your shoulders, your jaw. You're safe now. And whether you're on a boat, in a bed, or listening from some quiet corner of the world, you're not alone. You survived, and you're free. Let the waves rock you. Let your breath settle. Let sleep carry you out beyond the horizon.